Minister Burgo. Ms Broad.
Thank you, Acting President. I'm pleased to be able to speak today about the state budget papers, and I think a lot of people might switch off. They tune off and they think budget's boring, but no, not you, Mr Batchelor. I'm glad to hear it because it is very important. How money is allocated, what the priorities are, is so important. And the state government, we have three levels of government, the local, the state, the federal, but the state government has responsibility for so many services that are really critical, essential services. And when we look at the budget, we can see that roads, for example, roads, I hear from people all the time, their frustration about the state of our roads, and after 11 years of Labor in government, we've seen a lack of funding for the maintenance of our roads. And I've had local residents raise this issue just this week. I had one that had been on a recent trip to South Australia, and they spent 3 weeks there and they talked about how smooth the roads were. And then when they came back to Victoria, going along the Calder Freeway and other roads, they are so frustrated at the amount of potholes and the condition of our roads. I was speaking to another lady at Parliament who came just yesterday visiting from Bendigo, and she was talking about a trip that they'd taken to New South Wales and Queensland, and then seeing how beautiful the roads were in those states, and again the frustration coming back to Victoria. So again, that is a priority. That is where taxes should be going, and under this government they certainly haven't. Health is another crucial area, a core service of government, and what we've seen is threats of regional mergers of services, particularly in regional areas. I know areas that are in need of a lot more beds for hospitals, and we see that particularly around the Albury-Wodonga area. Mildura is another area in my electorate that's affected by that. And ambulance ramping is a huge issue, and this is being felt right across Northern Victoria. But I've spoken to a number of people that have rung for ambulances and been told that none's available, and ending up in the position where they're having to take their loved ones to hospital. Now again, this is what this state government should be doing. They should be delivering these services, and again, this is why budgets are so important. Another area that impacts us all, community safety. And yet we've seen crime escalating. The amount of crime that we're seeing and the difference that you see on the streets today in Bendigo compared to 20 years ago, it is just so different. And in other states, they've made reforms to bail laws. For example, Queensland, they're seeing their crime reduce. But in Victoria, because this government weakened bail laws, we've seen crime escalate. And the money, again, is there from the state government to support our police, who do such an important job, being that first line of defence and keeping us safe. But right now in our police force, we have over 1,100 vacancies. We have hundreds more who are currently on leave. We have more officers leaving the force and retiring than we do coming into the force. Now, this is a big challenge for our state. And again, it's a core service of government, and we are seeing failure on that front. Education, crucial. Money from this budget going to our schools to make sure that they're maintained and their facilities upgraded, and that our students have the access to the best education standards in the world. That's how it should be. But right now we have a shortage of teachers. We have over 1,000 vacancies in our educational system, and that is putting in immense pressure on teachers, and we've seen the pressure that they're under and the pressures that principals are experiencing, and some of the complications, I guess, and the challenges they're facing in the classroom. Housing, another core area of government, and yet I can tell you on the steps of Parliament, I remember we had the origami houses reflecting the number of families waiting for a home in this state that are in need of social housing. We have over 60,000 people on the waiting list, and Victoria is lagging behind other states when it comes to that provision of housing. And big goals have been set with the new housing, but no, they're not certainly reaching those targets. And we've seen in some electorates the amount of housing has actually gone backwards as places are being demolished. Transport, another core service of government, so important. But in regional areas, I know Bendigo has one of the highest cancellation rates. I know Wi-Fi was promised on the train line many years ago by Labor. Opening of the Harcourt station was something that they'd promised, and 7 years has lapsed and we still haven't seen anything there. It was actually under this government, and I believe it was under Jacinta Allen, who was the minister at the time, that the second track was taken out on the line to Bendigo, which means that you get stuck behind other services as you're coming down. And I do travel on the train regularly to Melbourne, so I've experienced some of that frustration, or being put into a bus for some of those services. And I've spoken to many people that have felt very frustrated, because we do need to be a state of cities, not a city-state. So supplying transport across the regions is so important. And yet right near Bendigo, very close to Bendigo, we have very few bus services. And there are so many areas in our state that don't have public transport. And for that reason, that's one of the reasons that I've been pushing for the lowering of the P-plate age in Victoria, because Victoria is the only state that requires you to be 18. Every other state you can be 17 or younger in some cases to get your probationary licence. And we know in other places overseas as well, New Zealand and the UK and America, you can get your licence at a younger age, and that would help more young people get to work, provided they've done the safety, driver training, which I think is very important, because you've got to make sure that they're ready to take on that big responsibility. But it could certainly make a huge difference. But it's been raised a number of times, and this government continues to say, no, we don't believe it'll be in the community's best interest. So again, we will hope for change there. Energy is another critical area of responsibility of the state government, but under this government we have seen prices continue to escalate, and I've spoken to so many people in business and families that are really struggling with the increasing cost of electricity. It's a huge part of their costs. Now, I thought, given that the Commonwealth Games, they're July next year, again, Commonwealth Games, I should point out that was a massive waste of funds under this government, very poor decisions. But it does remind me about records and setting some records, and we certainly have a record state debt under this government, heading towards $194 billion. That is incredible. Now, I am old enough to remember record players. You remember record players? Well, I thought I'd share or make up a bit of a soundtrack for the government, bit of a record, maybe state budget hits. We'll have a few hits. And I was just thinking of some songs that would suit this Labor government. I think the first song... No, you are so far away from Back in Black, I can tell you. I can tell you what. Back in the Black and Back on Track is something I certainly remember from working with Peter Costello many years ago, but I say this is just the furthest I've ever seen from any government being able to claim that. But no, I think the most appropriate song is Money, 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 bit of ABBA. Okay, there you go. I'd say I work all night, I work all day to pay the bills I have to pay. Ain't it sad? That is this government, certainly very sad indeed, because we are heading towards $29 million every single day in interest. That's over $1 million every hour. So that is certainly sad, very sad indeed. Here's another song for you. Second track on this record for this government would be Bills, Bills, Bills by Destiny's Child. So the lyrics, can you pay my bills? I think that is something that the Treasurer probably heard quite a lot from different ministers under this government, because we saw the Treasurer's advances absolutely blow out of the water. I think it was $12 billion on the little credit card to pay off the other credit cards there. But this is wasn't used for emergency situations. It was used for projects like a level crossing removal. So quite extraordinary, and just shows you how out of control they are and how they cannot manage money. Now, another one I thought might suit a different demographic to Destiny's Child, but say a bit of Johnny Cash should go on this record. I think After Taxes is an appropriate song, because this government has introduced 60 new or increased taxes since they've been in government. Now, I won't list them all, but you are probably very familiar with them. The emergency services tax is one. We had the holiday tax, the schools tax, the GP tax, land tax, and I just think, when I look at the lyrics, I think, yes, it says, I feel so good come payday. I think of all the things I'm going to buy when I pick up my pay, don't you know? But when they hand me that little brown envelope, I peep inside, Lord, I lose all hope, because from those total wages earned down to that net amount that's due, I feel the painful sense of the loss between the two. And I think that is what every Victorian family is feeling under this government. Now, when I was looking at a few different songs, I did find Anika Smethurst from The Age had found a song a while ago that she thought was fitting for this government. It's Taylor Swift. This is why we can't have nice things. And it was, yes, a fitting description of the state's debt predicament. But some of the lyrics there, but I'm not the only friend you've lost lately, if only you weren't so shady. And I'd say shady is certainly something I hear said about this government quite a lot, because secrecy and the lack of transparency, I mean, we've had a front row seat to that. But when you don't manage money well, services suffer. And when money is going out the door, paying interest, there is less to pay for services. Now, this government also doesn't realise that, when you call something free, they don't really know what's free. They say free kinder and free dental care and free TAFE. It does all actually cost money to run these services. People don't work for free, and nor should they. But the state government is there to provide services like education, police, health, roads, like I said before. The government collects taxes and then uses the funds to deliver these services. But when they don't manage money well, services decline, and that is what we're seeing under this government big time. They like to suggest that on this side of the House that, we may cut things, but again, I want to set the record straight on that, because this government has been in office now for 11 years, and they are cutting programs, particularly in regional areas. We've had the rural maternity program cut, the Buy 5 program. Now, we've had mental health jobs cut in regional police stations. I've spoken to people and understand there's about 20 jobs that were lost in that, and that is a critical time or a critical service for our police to have that support in regional stations. And again, it's been cut. Regional Development Victoria had jobs cut. Parks Victoria had funding slashed and programs cancelled. We've had tourism funding cut by 85%. We've had road maintenance programs. Now, I will say Sprayline is up for sale. There we go. Now, this is something that the government likes to spruik as well, and yet here they are selling a government services that is there to maintain our roads. We've had court services asked to cut over $100 million over 4 years. Our education, we heard before, Mr Welch talked about the delayed state funding for public schools. PAYAC revealed cuts to our emergency services. The CFA, $42 million cut. FRV, over $100 million cut. SES, $8.4 million cut. Our police had over $50 million cut. Victoria budget showed $3.2 billion cut to the public sector over the forward estimates. And the Helen Silver review is meant to be giving a bit more insight into all of that. But we have seen time and again this government cannot manage money. But I will say, I don't want to be all negative. I mean, Mr McIntosh said, we can be negative. I'm saying, no, I am excited, and I'm getting more excited, yes, because we are only about 60 weeks away from the next state election, people. So I think there is plenty of reason to be very excited, because we need to fix this broken record of this government that we hear time and time again, and a Liberal and Nationals government will get us back on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Broad. Mr Batchelor.